The halls of the Intergalactic Academy were buzzing. The news had spread fast. Humans were joining the class. Most students hadn't seen a human before, but the rumors had been flying around for ages. Some said they were emotional to a fault, prone to irrational outbursts, while others described them as wild, almost uncontrollable. A few were even excited, eager to see how the myths compared to reality. The general consensus, though, was that the stories about humans were exaggerated. How dangerous could children really be? The excitement built as students from different corners of the galaxy speculated among themselves. A tall, blue-skinned Githar turned to his group. "I heard humans cry when they're angry. Pathetic, isn't it? How could being so emotional be feared?" Next to him, a Zorvian, with her iridescent scales glimmering, rolled her eyes. "If they're anything like what I've read, they'll be too unpredictable to take seriously. Honestly, I think this whole thing is overhyped." A third voice chimed in, this one from a slender, insected Zalvex. "It's probably propaganda. No species could be that dangerous and still be considered children. If they were, they'd be nothing short of a galactic threat." The anticipation reached a fever pitch when the human transport finally arrived. The students gathered near the entrance, eager to catch their first glimpse of the mysterious newcomers. When the doors opened, the alien students were met with confusion. The humans were smaller than expected, barely taller than a Zalvex adolescent. They appeared harmless, too young to be considered any kind of threat. Their faces were wide with smiles, and they waved enthusiastically as they walked into the hall. The alien students exchanged looks. Surely this was a joke? These humans, with their childish grins and bright eyes, were supposed to be feared? One of the younger aliens, a timid Luthian, whispered, "They look so fragile." But there was something unsettling about their energy. While the aliens were still gauging the situation, the human children had already begun chatting with one another, their voices rising above the crowd. There was a certain unpredictability in the way they moved, how they constantly switched topics, jumping from excitement to curiosity in an instant. The pace was dizzying. One of the humans, a boy with messy hair, darted toward the group of Githar students and without hesitation asked, "Are those horns real? Can I touch them?" The Githar, stunned, simply stared. It was an innocence that bordered on recklessness. Another human immediately started talking to a group of Zalvex, blurting out questions about their many legs and how fast they could run. The ease with which the humans approached the aliens, without hesitation or fear, was unsettling in itself. The Academy's lead instructor, a stern, silver-skinned Direth, cleared her throat to address the gathered students. "I see you've all met our new arrivals. A word of advice, do not underestimate human children. You'll soon understand why." There was no malice in her tone, but her eyes scanned the room as if trying to communicate a warning beyond her words. The alien students exchanged glances. The tension in the room grew, though none of them could quite place why. The humans, oblivious to the unease around them, laughed and continued their discussions with boundless energy. It was clear that nothing about their behavior followed the norms that other species adhered to. As the humans were guided to their quarters, the alien students lingered in silence. They had expected something more dramatic, something that matched the terrifying stories they'd heard. But now, looking at the smiling human faces, they weren't sure what to believe. One thing was certain, though, things at the Academy were about to change, and it wouldn't take long for the true nature of the human children to reveal itself. The first day of lessons was supposed to follow the usual structure, orderly, logical, predictable. The alien students filed into the classroom, each already knowing what to expect. Every subject had its method, every problem had a procedure. The human children, however, seemed entirely unaware of these unwritten rules. They entered the room with wide eyes, chatting loudly, bouncing from one desk to another, their energy filling the space. The instructor, a tall Vorthian, began with a lesson in basic planetary science. It was straightforward: analyze materials, follow the instructions, and complete the assigned experiment. The alien students worked methodically, their eyes focused on the task at hand. But the humans, well, they took a different approach. Within minutes, one of the human children had mixed components in a way that wasn't in the instructions, leading to a small, harmless explosion. The aliens froze, their careful processes disrupted. The humans, instead of apologizing, laughed and immediately started adjusting the formula, talking excitedly among themselves. A girl with bright eyes and quick hands used scraps from the failed experiment to create a strange, functional device that whirred and blinked, though no one could figure out its purpose. It didn't make sense, but somehow it worked. The instructor tried to regain control, but the humans kept experimenting, testing, and creating, much to the confusion of their alien classmates. Later in the day, during a math lesson, the instructor posed a problem that stumped the class. The alien students struggled, sticking rigidly to the formulas they'd been taught. None of them could find a solution. That's when one of the human boys, leaning back in his chair with a grin, raised his hand. Instead of using the expected steps, he presented a bizarre analogy involving a card game and his favorite snack, linking it to the problem in a way that seemed absurd at first. But as he spoke, the logic unfolded. It wasn't how the aliens had been taught to think, but it worked. The answer was correct, even if the method defied the structured approach they all knew. Whispers spread across the classroom. How could something so reckless lead to success? The aliens were baffled. They followed strict systems of logic, step-by-step processes that had always worked for them. Yet here were the human children, skipping steps, breaking rules, and still arriving at the right answers. It wasn't supposed to be possible, but it was. The chaos continued to grow. In the afternoon, during a physical training class, the humans' unpredictability reached new heights. The session began with a standard relay race, something designed to test speed and endurance. The alien students were confident, knowing that some of them, like the towering Rothans, with their long legs, had clear physical advantages. But the humans didn't follow the race's intended structure. Instead, they made their own game of it, tackling obstacles in ways no one expected. One human boy, too small to compete with the Rothans in a straight race, grabbed a rope hanging nearby and swung across the track, cutting the course in half. Another human, instead of running, rolled under a barrier that was meant to be jumped over, gaining an edge. They ignored the official rules, found loopholes, and still came out ahead. The alien students were left stunned. They had trained for these events, knew the rules by heart, but the humans kept finding ways around them. It wasn't about physical strength, it was creativity, adaptability, and the sheer audacity to break the mold. By the end of the day, the alien students were split in their reactions. Some were impressed, their preconceived notions shattered by the humans' ability to think and act so freely. They realized that human children didn't just follow logic, they reshaped it to fit their needs. Others, though, were unsettled. This unpredictability, this chaos, it wasn't something they were used to. The humans didn't play by the same rules, and that made them dangerous in a way the aliens hadn't anticipated. The alien students, who had once laughed at the idea of humans being dangerous, now began to understand why they were feared. The annual tournament at the Intergalactic Academy was a grand event, a showcase of the best and brightest students across the galaxy. Challenges ranged from intellectual puzzles to physically grueling obstacle courses, each designed to test intelligence, strength, and adaptability. Every year, students from various species competed for the highest honors, but this year was different. The human children had been invited to participate. Despite their small size and perceived inexperience, they were allowed to compete. The alien students were skeptical. The humans had caused chaos in the classroom, yes, but this was a tournament designed for those with discipline, strategy, and years of training. How could these unpredictable children stand a chance? The first challenge was a maze, filled with puzzles and traps that required careful thought and precision. The alien competitors moved slowly, calculating their steps, solving each puzzle methodically. But the humans? They threw themselves into the maze without hesitation, running through narrow corridors, setting off traps that should have slowed them down. Yet, somehow, they adapted on the fly. Where others hesitated at a puzzle, the humans solved it in the most unconventional ways. One child used a piece of their uniform to trigger a trap harmlessly, while another, faced with a complicated lock, used brute force to break it open rather than solve it. It wasn't clean, it wasn't by the book, but it worked. By the time the first round ended, the human children had completed the maze faster than anyone expected. The alien students watched, half in awe, half in disbelief. They had solved the same puzzles, navigated the same traps, but it had taken them twice the time. In the next challenge, a high-pressure obstacle course designed to test both strength and mental acuity, the humans continued to surprise everyone. While the physically superior alien species approached each obstacle with caution, analyzing every step, the humans threw themselves into the course with reckless abandon. A section with a series of moving platforms designed to knock participants off balance saw many aliens overthink their timing, falling one by one. But the humans? They leaped forward, timing their jumps perfectly through instinct rather than calculation. At one point, one of the human children fell into a trap that should have ended their run. But instead of panicking, the child used the surrounding debris to free themselves, turning what should have been a defeat into a clever victory. They were bruised, their clothes were torn, but they were smiling, clearly enjoying the thrill of the challenge. It became clear that humans didn't fear failure or danger the way others did. They welcomed it, adapted to it, and used it to their advantage. As the challenges progressed, the tension among the alien students grew. They began to see a pattern in the humans' behavior, a willingness to take risks without hesitation, an ability to think on their feet, and a knack for turning even the most dangerous situations to their favor. It was unnerving. The final test was a life-threatening puzzle, a massive chamber that slowly sealed itself as the participants raced against time to find the exit. There were 3 human children left in the race, alongside several alien students. The chamber's walls began to close in, and the heat started to rise. The aliens, well-trained and disciplined, worked methodically, following the logical steps to deactivate the mechanisms. But as the walls inched closer, their calm started to falter. Panic set in. The humans, however, didn't bother with the expected solution. They shouted ideas at each other, making decisions on the fly, their actions erratic but strangely coordinated. One of the human children found a weak spot in the wall and suggested breaking through it, even though it was risky. The alien students were stunned. This wasn't part of the puzzle, it wasn't logical. Yet, with the walls closing in and time running out, the humans acted quickly. One of them found a tool from a previous challenge and, with a forceful strike, created an opening just wide enough to escape. The other human children followed, and they were out, safe, just as the chamber fully sealed. The alien students who witnessed the event stood in silence. They had followed the rules, the logic, the process, but they hadn't made it out. The humans had ignored the prescribed solution entirely, opting for something far more dangerous, and they had succeeded. In that moment, the alien students understood something profound. The humans weren't feared because of their strength alone. There were species far stronger, far faster. What made the humans dangerous was their unpredictability, their creativity in the face of danger, and their ability to thrive in chaos. They could solve problems no one else could, not because they followed the rules, but because they were willing to break them. Fear settled into the alien students' minds, not of the humans' physical abilities, but of what they could do when pushed to their limits. The galaxy had every reason to be wary of human children. They weren't just survivors, they were game changers. After the tournament, the alien students gathered in clusters, their minds still reeling from what they had just witnessed. Conversations buzzed around the corridors, their tones shifting from disbelief to something more cautious. Some couldn't help but be in awe of the humans' raw ability to improvise, while others were clearly unsettled, grappling with the implications. The humans had defied every expectation. They hadn't just participated, they had dominated in a way no one had anticipated, using methods that should have been reckless but had instead proved frighteningly effective. A group of Rolthans huddled together, whispering in hushed tones. "Did you see how they ignored the rules? They didn't even care about the standard protocols," one of them muttered. Another alien, from a species known for their logic-driven minds, nodded in agreement, eyes wide with lingering fear. They weren't just solving problems, they were rewriting them. It's no wonder the galaxy fears their kind. Across the hall, a different group had a more positive outlook. "It's kind of impressive, though, isn't it?" A smaller alien student piped up, nervously glancing around. "They aren't bound by what we know. They just do things differently. And it works." The others listened but remained quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. Fear mingled with respect, and the line between admiration and apprehension blurred. Eventually, a few of the braver alien students decided to approach the human children. Their curiosity outweighed their fear. They found them in the corner of the common area, laughing and playing together as if the tournament had been just another day of fun. They didn't look dangerous. In fact, they looked like ordinary children, smaller, even less physically imposing than many of the aliens. But after what they had seen, no one could deny the humans were far from ordinary. One of the alien students, nervously adjusting their translator device, stepped forward. How did you do it? In the tournament, I mean. How did you come up with those ideas?" The human children exchanged confused looks, as if the question didn't make sense. One of the older human girls, still smiling from their game, shrugged. "I don't know. We just figured it out as we went along." The simplicity of the answer sent a shiver down the aliens' spines. There was no secret strategy, no elaborate plan. It was instinct, pure, unrefined, and shockingly effective. The idea that these children could solve life-threatening puzzles and conquer high-stakes challenges with nothing but their own creativity was unsettling. "We just figured it out." The words echoed in their minds, a reminder that the humans' greatest strength lay in their unpredictability. After the interaction, the alien students returned to their instructors. There was an unspoken question in the air, one they didn't even need to voice. The instructors greeted them with knowing smiles, as if this outcome had been expected all along. One of the teachers, an elder Zelixian, nodded sagely as the students reported their observations. "Yes, this is the lesson," the instructor said. "Humans, even from childhood, possess a mind that works differently from ours. They don't follow the same patterns of thought, and that is their power." Another instructor chimed in, her tone almost reverent. "While many species rely on logic, rules, and established structures, humans thrive on chaos. They can see solutions where others see only problems. They take risks without hesitation because their minds are wired to embrace the unknown." The alien students listened carefully, understanding dawning in their eyes. They had always believed that danger came from strength, from physical power or technological superiority. But now, they realized that the greatest threat could come from something much subtler, something far more difficult to predict or control. Humans didn't just think outside the box, they broke the box apart, and used its pieces to build something entirely new. As the students left the instructors' chambers, their perspectives had shifted. They no longer saw the human children as odd or immature. Instead, they understood that the humans were capable of shaping the galaxy in ways no one else could. The unpredictability of their thinking was what made them so formidable, and now that the alien students had seen it firsthand, they couldn't unsee it. Some left with a newfound respect for the humans, marveling at their potential. Others, however, couldn't shake the undercurrent of fear that had taken root. What would these children grow into? If they could already outthink and outmaneuver their alien peers at such a young age, what would they be capable of as adults? As the alien students returned to their dormitories that night, they reflected on the day's events. The galaxy had always whispered about the humans, warning of their dangerous nature. But now the alien students knew the truth for themselves. Humans weren't just feared for their strength, they were feared for their minds. It was a sobering realization, and one that left the students with a lingering sense of uncertainty. They now understood why the galaxy feared humans, and with that understanding came a deep and abiding respect. But beneath it all, a question remained: if these children could already bend the rules of reality itself, what future awaited a galaxy that underestimated them?